Got your Bible? We're going to be reading out of the 37th chapter of the book of Genesis this morning. You pray just a little while. We'll try to get out of the way soon as God's done with us. Very familiar story in this chapter about a man by the name of Joseph. And most everybody's heard the story about Joseph. He was the 11th son of Jacob. And Jacob was the one, his name was later called Israel. And when we see the little country over in the Middle East by the name of Israel, this is where it originated from. And when we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, that originated from the 12 sons of Jacob, 12 sons of Israel. And I thought how that the Lord, He knows things in the future, because in Genesis it talks about Israel, talks about Jacob, talks about the sons of Jacob. And you can go in Revelation and you can read about the 12 tribes of Israel. And, a lot of people say we don't need the Old Testament. But as I've said before, and probably said it recent, I think I did, things that are concealed in the Old Testament are revealed in the New Testament. And I'm glad that God made it that way. And that the Old Testament represents the law that we're supposed to try to keep. But mankind proved that he was not able to keep the law, and that showed that we were condemned because we were guilty, because we couldn't keep the law. And because we were guilty, we were unworthy to make it to heaven, because we were guilty of breaking God's law. And the only way that we could be made innocent from the guilt that we have is by somebody that was able and worthy to take our place and to pay the debt we couldn't pay. And that was Jesus that came, and the only one that was worthy. But I've been reading about Joseph, and I thought how that Joseph is probably the most, and I've said this before, but probably the most type and the most shadow in the Old Testament of who Jesus was in the New Testament. There's more resemblances there of him being like Jesus, and no doubt he was not Jesus. And he was not the Redeemer, he was not the Savior, but he was a type of the Savior and a type of the Redeemer. And I thought about how that we can see how he resembles one way by him being beloved of the Father. The Bible said that he was the one that was loved by his Father the most, because he was a son of his Father's old age. And I thought about how that it also said that his Father made him a coat of many colors, because he was the one that's beloved. He was despised by his brothers, because if we read, we can see that how that he was the one that was the dreamer. He was the one that would reveal secrets, and I thought about how that he was despised by his brothers. And I thought about later on, as we read in the story of Joseph, how that him being the revealer of secrets, how he was given a name. And that name was the name of Zephaniah. And that word means a revealer of secrets. And I thought about how that Jesus was given a name. And that name was above all names. The name, the Bible said, that every knee would bow and every tongue would confess that he was Lord, for the glory of God. And I thought about the dream that Joseph had, that had said that his father and even his brethren would bow to him in obedience one day. And we can read through the book of Genesis there, and we can find out how that later on in life, how that Joseph would be placed second in command below Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and how a famine would hit the land there of Canaan, and they would have to go over to the land of Egypt and to find food and to find out that Joseph was in charge of the food over there. And how that later on we can see that his own brethren that he told that would bow to him one day, they would, because he would be sitting in the king's seat. And ain't you glad that we're serving a king? Amen. The king that, if I get a loaf of bread today, it's not because I work for it. It's not because I deserved it. It's not because I'm worthy of getting it. It's because the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords gave me grace to have what I've got today. And that's why that reason we're here today, it's not because we have to be here. It's because of the one that died for our sin to give us the opportunity to be in God's house, to worship a risen Savior, and to thank Him for being the one that saved us from our sin. But if you'll get your Bible, the 37th chapter of the book of Genesis, and we want to start reading about the 24th verse. Let's go to the 23rd verse. This is talking about what we've talked about. Now that Joseph, being the 11th son of Jacob, the one that's beloved by the Father, something else I thought about this morning. You know, there's a big resemblance of who Joseph was and representing who Jesus is. And how that they were both sold for so many pieces of silver. Amen. But it also said that Joseph was cast into the earth, into a pit. But they both came out. Amen. Ain't you glad we're serving a risen Savior? Amen. And I thought about how that Judah, the older brother, of who he was, Joseph. He said, why should we conceal his blood? He said, why should we kill him, in other words, and conceal his blood? I'm glad the blood's not concealed. Amen. I'm glad in the New Testament that the Savior's blood was revealed. I'm glad it was shed at Calvary, and I'm glad by the shedding of blood there will be remission of sin. I'm glad that's why we're able and we're worthy enough, not because we didn't count, but because of the blood. That's why we're here today, to reveal the blood, and that blood is still crying out today. And it was revealed there at Calvary, and brother, there's men of God standing all over the world this morning, and they're still preaching that same blood that was revealed in the New Testament, that was shed at Calvary. I mean, yet the blood was a covering and atonement for mankind's sin, and because we got the blood, I'm going to steal the blood way. It ain't my way, your way, it's the blood way. I'm glad the blood, it'll not just cover our sin, it'll wash our sin away, it'll change the individual and give him life today. The life of the flesh is in the blood. You get your blood drained out of your flesh, you ain't here long. I want to start reading just a little bit, and we're going to try to hurry. The 23rd verse of the 37th chapter. Are you there? Amen. Praise the Lord. Are you not there? Praise the Lord. And it came to pass, when Jesus was come unto his brother, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes, and they looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. And there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren and said, that the child is not, and I whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats. Now listen to this verse. They took Joseph's coat and they killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father. and said, "This have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no." And his father's the one who gave it to him, made it for him. So he knew the coat. And he knew it and said, "It is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him." Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his coat, clothes, and put sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I will go down into the grave unto my son, mourning." Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. We will go back to the 31st verse just for a minute. The Bible says, "And they took Joseph's coat, and they killed a kid of the goats, and they dipped the coat in his blood." They took Joseph's coat, they killed a goat, and they took the blood of the goat, and they dipped that coat into the blood. This morning, you pray just a little. Now, if you'll bear with me, I'll try to hurry. But this morning, I want you to think about something, about this bloody coat. Now, Joseph was well favored by his father. Joseph was loved dearly, enough that his father went out of his way to make a coat of many colors for him to wear. But I want you to understand something about this coat. What does this coat represent now? Now, I thought about what he said in the next verse, and they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and they said, "This have we found. Now know it be thy son's coat or no." In other words, he was identifying Joseph by this coat. That was what that coat represented, was Joseph at this time. Because he didn't know where Joseph was. He didn't know if Joseph was dead or alive. He had no idea really where Joseph was. But this coat revealed something that he thought about his son. Then he went on it, and he knew it, and he said, "It is my son's coat." And he said, "An evil beast has devoured him." And this is what I want to preach on. He said, Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. Did he know that? No, but he thought it. This coat, that was a bloody coat. It represented nothing but a lie, is all it represented. It represented a false truth, because his son was not dead. His son had been sold says all men are liars, but God's the truth. Amen. And he said there would come a time that men would believe the lie, but they will be damned. In other words, they'll believe a false truth, something that looks so real, just because it says church on the front door, and it says we come to worship a living God on the front door, don't mean they're telling the truth behind the pulpit. Be careful where you raise your children, what you teach your children, what they hear in life, and what they see from you, because it could convince them to believe nothing but a lie today. Our world thinks if they go to church, if they try to do right, they think that they're going to make it to heaven. Well, that's nothing but a bloody coat. Amen. And that blood's not the blood of the son, that's the blood of the goat. I thought how that our world is so easily deceived, how that Joseph, he had not been killed, he was still very much alive, but his father thought by what he witnessed, just what he saw, by some kind of apparel that his son wore, a little blood on it, that his son had been taken and killed by evil beasts. But I'm telling you, he believed a lie, but later the truth was revealed to him. Everybody's going to know the truth one day or the other, and they better get it right the first time. We're living in an age now that's trying to entertain our people. I'm going to tell you what will get your kids saved. It's nothing but the gospel. Amen. It's going to take the death, the burial, and the resurrection of a Savior that's holy, righteous, and God Himself, and died for our world to save them from their sin. And they're trying to rewrite the book. They're trying to entice our people in just to get their pockets padded and get popularity, to make themselves look good. I found out when you preach the cross and preach the blood and preach Jesus and rebuke sin and try to live a clean life, people may not like you, but friend, you can tell them the truth, and the truth is what sets them free today. Our world better wake up to reality. Now, just because there's a big crowd there, there's a preacher one day said there's one of these modernism preachers, he's kind that comes up and they're always questioning the old time preaching. He said, preacher, I believe you're one of them people that thinks you're the ones only you're the people's the ones going to go. He said, I'll even make it even more plain than that. I don't know if some of them's going. Amen. And that's how it is. It ain't about what I think about you. It's what you've done with this man that died for your sin and shed his precious blood to give you life. I mean, it ain't about a lie. It ain't about enticing. It ain't about trying to trick you. It's about telling you the truth. You believe in the truth and you accepting Christ as your Lord and your Savior. And thank God then you'll know where you're going. The devil will give you every lie in the book. And I'll tell you what, this represents nothing but a lie. These boys know their brother had not been killed. They're the ones putting the fake blood on there of a goat to make their father think that their brother had died. They didn't want the truth to be revealed. And that's where our world's at today. How they don't want the truth of their real life being revealed. They don't want to tell nobody that they're a sinner. They don't want to tell nobody they've done wrong. They want to look like they're right and everybody else is wrong. Listen, what's the saith of the Word of God? It's the only thing that's going to stand the test of time. He said the flower fadeth, the grass withereth, but my word, he said, shall stand. When the world's on fire, the Word is all that's going to melt anything. Amen. It ain't how many you got in your church. Thank God we got a pretty good track clear out. I'd rather tell you the truth and see you go to heaven than have a house full and tell you a lie and see you go to hell. Amen. Your blood people has believed it and taught it all their life, somebody else will start believing it also. And they'll kill for religion. That's what's happening over here in our Middle East. It's coming over in our country now. Now they don't like what we stand for. Now they know there's something about the Christian religion, and I ain't talking about some denomination. I'm talking about those that have been to Calvary and been born again and got saved under the grace of God. And thank God there's something different about being alive today. I thought the Bible teaches us Jacob believed it. Without a doubt. These people will do things in life because they be convinced that's the right way. But I remember this. I remember when the Holy Ghost began to deal with my heart to be saved. I remember how really troubled that I was. I was afraid, but yet I was anxious because I knew that it could be better. I knew not because the preacher had done this or that, because the Spirit showed me that I was lost on my way to hell. I'm glad there's a still small sweet voice came and told me that He loved me. Amen. Showed me through His Word that I could be changed from the person that I was, and I could have hope, and I could have peace, and I could have joy knowing that there's a place called heaven that's prepared for God's people. And thank God, amen, when the truth is really revealed, it's up to you individually to make it right. You can't do it just by believing somebody else. You've got to hear God speak to your heart, and when He speaks, thank God you can say yes unto the Holy Spirit. Jacob believed it. Later on, several chapters later, the truth was revealed. Jacob saw his son. He said, surely my son liveth. He saw, you know what he was proved by? He was proved there by the provision that his son had provided for them as they were in a famine. Them wagon full of corn came from Egypt to bless him. And that's why Christ was recorded in His Word, that we might believe the things that He did and believe He is the Son of God. He's the provider. He's the Savior. He's the deliverer. He's the one that can take you out of the state you're in and give you peace with Him. He can get you away from them addictions and desires and the things of the flesh and put something in you that's greater than what you are, that you can overcome it. You don't have to go to school for it. You don't have to be rehabilitated. When God saves you, He changes you and gives you something that you can live for Him and rejoice about, because you know beyond the shadow of a death that you've been saved today. But our world says, I just don't know, preacher. Don't know if that's how it is. Well, if the Word of God says it, that's the way it is. If you don't believe the Word of God, there's no hope for you anyway. And if you don't want to hear the Word of God, we can't help you. You've got to want to be saved. And there's a lot of bloody coats of land out there today. The people that says, well, I made a profession back yonder because all them in church went forward. The preacher told me I was saved. That's a bloody coat. That's a lie. You can't bank your soul on what somebody else did for you. It's all about Jesus. Amen. Brother, I'm going to tell you, our world is being deceived day by day. You ask them if they're ready to die. Oh, preacher, I'm all right. You can't find anybody that says they're lost anymore. Everybody's all right with God. Now listen, if you ain't been to Calvary, ain't been saved with the grace of God, you definitely ain't all right with God. You ain't going to work it out with God. You ain't going to be good enough. You ain't straightened up enough. You must come to Calvary and be born again if you go to heaven one day. You relying on what you've done, it's nothing but a bloody coat. It's a lie. I'm telling you what Jesus will do. He'll change you. And you'll sleep better at night. You'll not worry about where you're going when you die, because Jesus will change that. And that's the only one that can. I know these here, some of this church has got children, got loved ones, got family, got friends that they would love to see saved. All we can do is pray for them and try to be a light and a witness in front of them. It takes God to do the saving. And I'm going to tell you something. Sister come first thing this morning, wanting the elders of the church to pray for her, believing. You know who's going to do the healing? It ain't going to be the elders. It ain't going to be you. If healing comes, it's going to come through Him. Amen. He's the one's the healer. Our doctors ain't healers. They might prescribe you something, but if God don't put His touch on it, He ain't going to heal you either. It takes God the seed might be planted, but it takes God to give the increase. It takes God to feed your family. It takes God to save your soul. It takes God to keep you going. And thank God we will be rejoiced because God's able to take good care of us. But there's so many bloody coats. They're trying to rewrite this and say, well, we'll get it where you can understand it. You get on your knees, you'll understand it more. I was thinking this morning, and you know, it takes studying, and it takes praying, and I feel like I'm not scratched the surface of this book. I mean, I don't feel like I've even tipped the iceberg of this book. But God has shown me how simple salvation really is. Our world is so deceived into thinking they're going to be good enough. And then they're going to think that when they get saved, they're going to stay straight enough to keep it. Well, you can't keep it. You have a bad thought before you get out the door. Amen. You let somebody pull out in front of you going home, you'll have a bad thought. Unless you're pretty strong. Amen. Now, my brother, I'm not depending on what I've done. Now, the reason I'm here and the reason I'm trying to live right ain't to stay saved. I'm trying to live right because I am saved. And I realize what a price was paid for me on one day in Calvary. If somebody loved me enough that they shed their blood, their precious blood, to die for my sin, to set me free from the bondage of sin one day. And that's my only hope. And you believe every lie in the book. And you say, preacher, I think I'm all right. You better know. You better not be like Joseph and take for granted because he's seen something. People says, I know I'm saved because boy, the Lord really worked that out. That ain't got a thing to do with your salvation. These lost people out there got way more than you have. Amen. As far as materialism and wealth. That don't mean the Lord worked it out because they're saved. It's because they're still lost. Brother, I'm telling you, you've got to get saved. It ain't about this life anyway. We're passing through this land. And the only way you're going to see Jesus in a good way one day is to get born again. And our children better understand that this blessed old book is their only hope. This is an instruction book to glory. You can believe a lie and be damned, the Bible says, or you can believe Jesus and be born again. I'm not going to tell you when you get saved, everything's going to go smooth. Sometimes it may even get rough down here because God's going to use you in different ways. I'll guarantee you one thing. You get saved. If things do get rough, He'll be right there with you. Amen. And He'll take good care of you no matter where you're at. He'll take good care of you. But the best part of it is when we ain't here tomorrow. Amen. Because if we ain't here, we're somebody somewhere else. Brother, I'm telling you, if we ain't here and we're dead, brother, I'm glad we can live because of what Christ done there in Calvary. Now you believe every lie in the book and say, well, if I go to that church and they told me if I signed the book, or if I give my tithes, or I've done this for the preacher, and I'd be all right. And that is a bloody coat that's laying before our people today of the smokes and the lights and all the things they got to offer. It ain't going to save your soul or deliver you from the bondage of sin today. It takes the blood of Christ. And I'm telling you, that's the only thing that will cleanse you, wash you, and change you. It's the blood of Christ. Get you something this morning. I don't know if you've got a bloody coat in your life that you're believing. Jacob believed it because he saw. What was it, Thomas? He said, I'll not believe till I see the hands of my Savior, the nail prints, and the place in His side. I'll not believe it till I see that. But if you wait till you see Him, it'll be too late. You must come through faith, believing that He is, and He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. And I'm glad He's able to keep that which I have committed unto Him against that day. I'm glad I've got hope in Christ as everybody stands. This altar's open. If you've never been to Calvary, you need to come. Listen, you're going to die one day. It may be sooner than you think. But you can come right now and you can take care of that. If you die, you won't have to worry. You don't have to worry anymore. Come, as they say.